Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. The Squadron 42 monthly report was just released, so let us break it down together. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members for making these videos possible. Thank you so much for the support, and if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So, the Squadron 42 monthly report was released this Wednesday, and this covers much of the work that went on for Squadron 42 through the months of both November and December. So with that said, let us delve in and break it down. Starting with the AI features team, they continued to develop a key combat encounter by improving locomotion and simplifying weapon firing to use the same subsumption control nodes as human AI agents. So it sounds like they are referring to an alien species here that can fire weapons. Now it could be the Vanduul, as they do have lances that can fire some form of projectile, but it could equally be involving the Xi'an, Banu or Tavaran, as I do believe we could be encountering some of, if not all of the alien races throughout the Squadron 42 campaign. The team also iterated on Vanduul combat encounters, with the team fixing issues with the enemies entering combat and moving into melee range. They also implemented Vanduul death animations, which was further polished, so they can be killed. And the Vanduul execution takedown window was improved and telegraphed correctly to ensure that players have an opportunity to escape. So a range of other combat areas were worked on as well, including changes to the tactical target query system, which can now spread targets across a group, but still prioritize the player. And I believe that the player prioritization will only be applicable to Squadron, as it is a single-player campaign. You are the focus, whereas in the persistent universe, AI will likely target all players equally based on certain variables. Now, a new cover tactical position query term was finished, allowing non-line-of-sight cover posture queries, and an issue was fixed with characters in flow graph-controlled non-combat custom assignments not going into combat after exiting the assignment, so just fixing up a few issues there. Tech debt work was done on firing validation to ensure that it better encapsulates the new debug render improvements, while synced melee attacks were connected to the AI melee combo system so that follow-up attacks can be data-driven, and this is used in a boss encounter to drive a follow-up synced weak attack if the previous one fails. So nice to hear about tech debt work going on, as although this is specific to the Squadron 42 campaign, tech debt and bug fixing has been a very long duration task on the progress tracker for many teams, and will certainly help to get the verse to a much smoother experience, fixing many bugs, and get the overall experience more stable and easier to deal with for the future as well. Finally, for the AI features team, they implemented a new invulnerability system to allow AI to take damage but not go below a specific threshold, which is used to script various damage-induced stages of a boss fight without making the character completely invulnerable. Now, for the AI tech team, they progressed with features and support for release builds, as in release builds for Squadron 42, I guess. For Boids, they're close to finalizing the first iteration that will allow the designers to place fish, rodents, and birds in the environment, which is very exciting to hear. Hopefully we're not waiting too long for this to come to the persistent universe, but there is more on creatures and Boids in the PU report as well. Now, recent updates to Boids include rules to avoid dangerous areas or actors, transition rules that will detect weapons fired, and the ability to switch from idle and wandering to a fleeing rule set. The team also further iterated on killing Boid agents and how they will transition from an animation-driven state to ragdolling, and for birds, they extended the number of wandering states, so for example, besides flying, birds can also walk. Now, effort was also put into optimizing and improving various features, including the pathfinding algorithm, collision avoidance system, navigation system, and the subsumption loading logic. For Apollo tools, AI Tech continued to support the designers with additional functionality. Several existing features were polished and finalized, including NPCs utilizing trolleys, which received improved collision avoidance, which is going to be very useful for the PU, especially with things like these distribution centers, as players will be soon hauling large consignments of cargo. Having NPCs capable of using a trolley coming to the player's ship and unloading it for them will be very helpful. Now, for AI using ladders, new functionality was added, and now NPCs can check to see if the ladder is available, and will only use it if it's free, or if another NPC is climbing in the same direction they want to go in. The team also improved and extended spline functionality, which is how ships fly in a certain direction. This involved allowing ships to move along a spline while staying oriented toward the target and moving to the beginning of the spline that is already moving. And finally for the team, they started to look for a better solution to generating nav mesh on the planets, as the current implementation could be faster and has problems generating nav mesh close to planetary poles. And this work is currently in progress, and an update will be provided in a future report. So the nav mesh, or the navigation mesh, is what enables NPCs to basically navigate a surface area, and although it's never nice to hear that things are not working as intended, the fact that they have recognized there's an issue and have a plan in mind is good news and very proactive. Now onto the animation team. They worked on the player skill level animations, such as takedowns, vaulting, mantling, and exercise, and continued developing weapons. Now this skill level animation is referring to the player character's sort of natural progression improvements, and these will be passive, improving things that you do the most. For example, if you run a lot, then you might be able to run for longer as your character's cardio improves. But if you were to stop running around for a duration, then your character will lose that cardio ability again. And I actually like the idea of most of these, as it does give reason to keep practicing and developing these passive attributes, and hopefully they don't lean too much into actual skill, if that makes sense. Now, the social team worked alongside level design to add life across various chapters, which was supported by the mocap team, and on the facial side, the devs continued to develop facial content for the cast characters and combat and social AI that drive the narrative. So moving on to gameplay features, they spent time looking at what's needed to implement some of their Squadron 42 features into the persistent universe, and what additional requirements are not needed for the single-player campaign. Now they say most features are moving over smoothly, although the new mobiGlas requires work to support existing apps that are not found in Squadron. Now this is a good indication as to what is likely going to come in Q1 patch or Q2 patch. Obviously this isn't a given, but lots of Squadron 42 stuff can just be quickly and quite easily converted to work in the persistent universe, like the animations or interactions for example. But for things like the mobiGlas, clearly it requires a lot more of an effort and could indicate that we won't be seeing the updated mobiGlas until Q2. Now the STARMAP is currently being polished, with fixes for labels and better transitioning between the solar system and minimap views. This, they say, was adapted to work well on a 2D vehicle multifunction display screen, which will need to support multiple solar systems when Pyro comes online. There was also developments using the minimap rendering inside the STARMAP holosphere for the new landing UI, so players will be able to see walls, floors, and ceilings in their ship's radar when coming into land. So there's quite a lot to break down here. Firstly, it is great to hear that the new STARMAP is getting polished, as it does sound like it could be part of the Q1 3.23 patch at the end of March. But what is equally exciting is the information on the new landing UI, which has been a big request for many players. And this gives us an idea of what it will be like as well, displayed on our ship's radar, showing us the hangar walls, their floors, the ceilings, so we know exactly how well our ship is fitting. Now this might not come in time as the new STARMAP, they could both be Q2 features, but the fact that polishing is being done for the STARMAP and development of the landing UI is ongoing is great news. Now the new character customizer was polished, including better rendering for the head library grid. The team is also experimenting with a different UI for face sculpting and made other general usability improvements, with them now looking at ways to better serialize the data and reduce the size requirements. Now I'm really excited to see how the verse will feel once the new character customizer is in players' hands. Seeing everyone running around, all with very unique and highly detailed character faces, will be so good. And of course, I can't wait to make my own character. Fingers are crossed that this is a Q1 feature, but of course, it could be Q2. All we know is that they want it in the first half of this year. Now finally, for the gameplay features team, the Squadron 42 front end received polish, with save game profiles now displaying the relevant customized character and a dynamically changing environment depending on progress. So moving on to the gameplay story team, Their big focus was on the Fortunes cross level, including a scene featuring an NPC talking to the player with branching dialogue. Alongside this, the team worked on a range of scenes across various chapters, using new mocap, updated poses, and fixing problems. They also made several significant updates to scenes in Chapter 5, which involved using new mocap as well to improve how two characters meet and walk upstairs at the start of the chapter. Plus, new motion capture was used to animate 4 characters exiting a tram before 6 characters get on, which they say was a bit of a challenge for timing and space, but all works well. And finally, for the team, they implemented a new dialogue-heavy 3-person scene in the Shuben hangar and used additional mocap to make a key character walk to and from a meeting scene in Chapter 4. Now, on to the level design team. For the level design's social narrative team, they pushed with Idris interstitials, prioritizing the medbay and corridor sections, and clearing out the backlog of bugs and tasks along with other miscellaneous blockers. Chapter 1's Javelin social section was also key focus, and as this is the game's opening scene, it is hugely important as it sets the scene for what's to come. November featured multiple reviews and several rounds of feedback, which led to tweaking content and adding new mocap, with the latter making a significant difference in quality. And in the past, mocap turnaround was quite lengthy, but thanks to the new on-site studio, which is in the Manchester office, content can be in-game within a matter of days. Now, this was a big win for Squadron and for Star Citizen, getting an in-house motion capture studio. As for the future of Star Citizen, and obviously the other chapters of Squadron, it will really help them to just get the mocap they need when they need it very quickly. Now, Chapter 4 was a big focus as well, which involves an NPC leading a player through a social area of a rundown stopover station. There was also a concerted push on the Archon station, which has hundreds of background crew going about their daily business, and involved collating with the AI content team, who have been striving to make the AI in these sections as convincing as possible. And I feel like it's going to be quite the sight seeing the station of this size with all of its population just going about their work. Cannot wait. Now, for the narrative team, they continue to work with production to assess all tasks that are currently assigned to the narrative team to make sure they cover all known remaining work. These tasks might be changed based on continued development, but this process allows the team to figure out where they can jump into in 2024. The team also continued to define the collectibles that will be scattered throughout the levels, and some of these are a little more involved than others, but the team synced with design and art to understand the number of placement and various objects. And I can't wait to be finding all of these little trinkets and items that we collect as we play through the campaign. I just really hope that these items can be brought to the persistent universe and displayed in our homes. Now, for the tech animation team, they worked on a lot of various deliverables to help other teams do what they need to do better, quicker, and more streamlined. I won't go into them all, as these cover a lot of areas and are quite technical, but a lot of what they did will help streamline the pipelines. And finally, we have the VFX team. They continued to provide effects support for a variety of locations, as well as some key cinematic sequences, and they also continued to fine-tune water, including underwater effects. So there you have it. That was the most recent update regarding all things Squadron 42. As we know, they are focused on polishing and optimizing Squadron now, and it shows with reports like this. And it is great to hear about the work going into getting many of the Squadron features into the persistent universe, like the STARMAP, the Mobi-Glass, and of course the landing UI. But with that said, I will now get straight on to working on the persistent universe report, so do keep your eyes peeled for that. It is not one to miss. And if you enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing. We are less than 1,000 subscribers away from 60,000, so thank you so much for joining. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. You are all more than welcome over there. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.